October, 1962. The world was holding its breath. American reconnaissance photographs showed Soviet nuclear missiles being installed in Cuba, less than 90 miles from the coast of Florida. For 13 days, the United States and the Soviet Union stood closer to nuclear war than at any other moment in human history. Newspapers spoke of minutes, not days, separating peace from annihilation. Military planners were forced to confront a terrifying question that few civilians ever considered: what would remain after the first bombs fell? At the heart of that question was communication. In a nuclear war, survival would not depend only on weapons, but on information. Orders would have to be transmitted. Responses coordinated. Decisions made under unimaginable pressure. Yet the systems designed to carry those messages were fragile. One well-placed strike could silence entire regions. The nervous system of a modern nation was centralized, vulnerable, and exposed. Inside the RAND Corporation, a think tank deeply embedded in Cold War strategy, analysts were tasked with imagining the unthinkable. They studied blast radii, casualty estimates, and scenarios of escalation. Among them was a quiet engineer named Paul Baran. He was not a general. Not a politician. Not even a household name. But he was thinking about a problem that almost everyone else misunderstood. Paul Baran was born in Poland in 1926. 2 years later, his family emigrated to the United States, joining millions who believed the future lay across the Atlantic. He grew up American, shaped not by ideology but by engineering, practicality, and problem-solving. He studied electrical engineering at Drexel University, then moved west to California, where opportunity and aerospace money were flowing freely. In Los Angeles, Baran went to work for Hughes Aircraft Company, one of the giants of the American defense industry. By day, he worked as an engineer. By night, he attended classes at UCLA, slowly earning a master's degree in engineering. It was demanding, unglamorous work, the kind that leaves little trace in popular history. In 1959, the same year he completed his degree, Baran joined the RAND Corporation. RAND, at the time, was obsessed with nuclear war. Its purpose was not to prevent conflict, but to ensure that if it came, the United States would be able to respond effectively. One of the most pressing concerns was command and control. How would national leaders communicate with military forces after cities, bases, and infrastructure had been destroyed? The American telephone system was a marvel of mid-20th century engineering, but it had a fatal flaw. It was centralized. Long-distance communication depended on large switching centers. Destroy those centers, and entire regions would go silent. The same problem plagued military command networks. They were efficient in peacetime and brittle in war. Paul Baran approached the problem differently. Instead of asking how to protect the existing system, he asked a more radical question: what if the system did not need to survive intact at all? What if it could function even while being torn apart? Baran proposed a communications network with no central control. No single point of failure. Instead of relying on a few massive switching stations, the network would be made up of many small, simple nodes. Each node would be capable of receiving information and passing it along to the next, like buckets in a fire brigade. If some nodes were destroyed, the message would simply find another path. To his colleagues, the idea sounded impractical, even absurd. Communication networks, as they understood them, required order and hierarchy. Baran was proposing something closer to chaos. Messages would not follow a fixed route. They would move dynamically, adapting to damage in real time. Baran called this concept distributed communications. Others jokingly referred to it as hot potato routing. A node would receive a piece of information and immediately pass it along to whichever neighboring node seemed most likely to get it closer to its destination. Hold it only as long as necessary. Keep it moving. Never depend on a single path. Even more radical was Baran's idea of breaking messages apart. Instead of sending information as one continuous stream, he proposed dividing it into small units he called message blocks. Each block would travel independently through the network. Some might take longer routes. Some might arrive out of order. At the destination, they would be reassembled into the original message. To many engineers, this sounded like madness. Why deliberately fragment information? Why allow messages to arrive scrambled? But Baran understood something others missed. In a damaged network, perfection was the enemy of survival. Flexibility mattered more than order. If one block was lost, it could be reset. If one route was destroyed, others would remain. The network did not need to know the overall state of the system. It only needed to keep passing information along. Intelligence emerged from redundancy. Baran and his colleagues at RAND documented these ideas in a series of dense technical reports. The reaction was underwhelming. Telephone companies dismissed the concept outright. Military planners doubted it could be built at scale. Some engineers argued that digital communication itself was unreliable compared to traditional analog systems, yet Baran persisted. He was not motivated by fame or recognition. He was solving a problem as an engineer solves a circuit, methodically, patiently, and without regard for whether the solution fit existing institutions. Unbeknownst to him at first, a similar idea was taking shape across the Atlantic. In Britain, a researcher named Donald Davies independently developed a near-identical system. Davies used a different term for message blocks. He called them packets. That word would eventually replace Baran's terminology, but the underlying idea was the same. In 1969, Baran's concepts were put to the test. Funded by the U.S. Department of Defense's Advanced Research Projects Agency, a new network was created. The first node was installed at UCLA. Others followed at Stanford, UC Santa Barbara, and the RAND Corporation itself in Santa Monica. This network became known as ARPANET. Its original purpose was modest. Researchers wanted to share expensive computers remotely. No one imagined a global communications revolution. But something unexpected happened almost immediately. Users began sending messages to one another. Not commands. Not data sets. Personal notes. Technical discussions. Informal exchanges. Electronic mail was born not through design, but through use. The distributed network encouraged human connection in ways its creators had not predicted. Throughout the 1970s, the network expanded. New nodes were added. New protocols developed. The logic of packet switching proved robust, efficient, and scalable. In 1983, the growing system split. Its military portion became Milnet. The civilian research network retained the name ARPANET. By the end of the decade, even that name faded. The system was no longer a single network, but a network of networks. It became known simply as the Internet. Paul Baran did not become a public figure during this transformation. He left RAND in 1968, before the Internet took shape in the public imagination. He went on to co-found the Institute for the Future, a non-profit organization devoted to long-term thinking. He also founded several companies, quietly applying his ideas to new domains. In interviews later in life, Baran reflected on how far his early concepts had traveled. He spoke of a future he once described in a 1966 paper, where people would shop through screens, navigating virtual department stores. At the time, it sounded fanciful. Decades later, it seemed obvious. Baran lived long enough to see the world reshaped by ideas he once struggled to defend. The Internet became essential to commerce, communication, and daily life. It survived not because it was indestructible, but because it was designed to fail gracefully. Paul Baran died in 2011. There were no national days of mourning. No statues raised in his honor. Yet every message sent across the Internet carries a trace of his thinking. Every packet that finds a new route around a broken link echoes a solution conceived during the darkest moments of the Cold War. His story is not one of glory or spectacle. It is the story of a problem quietly solved by someone who understood that survival depends not on strength alone, but on adaptability. In a world built on centralized power, Paul Baran imagined something different. A system without a center. A network designed for uncertainty. A way forward when everything else falls apart, that was the way it was.